Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm joined by my husband, Simon.
Good
Hello.
morning. Good morning. Coming to you live from the other room.
Have you got your tea?
I've got my tea. Have you got one?
I've got the puppy who
Yes.
is just playing behind me. Bless her. So I wanted to bring you on the podcast because you are a very big part of my life and business and investing and everything. Do you want to introduce yourself to the listener and summarize everything you've been up to since we met?
Everything I've ever been up to. um, well, I think people from the outside, if they're familiar with you or they're familiar with what you do, they might think, "What's this bloke doing?" But I've actually been involved with our rent-to-rent business pretty much from day one. When I was happily employed by the ambulance service, working shifts, and you'd been made furloughed actually during COVID from air traffic control, and you'd been researching this amazing strategy that was going to transform our lives. And I was a bit like, okay, she's bored. She needs something to do. So fine. And then within a couple of months, you were saying, could you come and have a look at this house? You know things about houses, don't you? And I was like, yeah, okay. And then before I knew it, my days off were taken up with a bit of decorating here and going around and putting a new sink in there. And what started out as a part-time, just doing it on the side a few hours a week, turned into something that I was able to leave my full-time job for, which was
Yeah.
great. And we've been working together ever since, and now scaled this completely bonkers amount of tenants and houses
Yeah.
in a really tidy way that now, it's just brilliant. It's been a really amazing 4 years.
Uh-huh.
And in that time, I've gone from handyman, refurbishment person, sole maintenance person to then kind of more of an oversight managerial role as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
been quite the 4 years.
It has. So were you a bit cynical then when I first started?
Um, well, for anyone that doesn't know you very well, you love a new idea all the time. You've just come back from London and you've already said in the car on the way back from the school run this morning, I've had this idea and I've had that idea. So you're always coming out with things,
Yeah.
and it's great. You're just a busy brain, always looking for the next thing. So I think when you didn't have to go and do anything, you were being paid on furlough, but you were just kind of at home with the dog and the kids. And I think you were just like ready for a change, weren't you? So you started researching it, and it just sounds a bit, I think when you try and explain rent to somebody, it can sound a little bit, not sure if you
Mm.
don't know anything about property. And yeah, it just sounded like it was a bit too good to be true in a way. You just said, well, all you do is you rent a house, you get a commercial lease for 5 years, and then you do it up, and then you rent all the rooms out and you make your margin on each room. And I was like, okay, that sounds way too easy. Why isn't everybody doing that? So yeah, I was a bit cynical.
And now you love it.
Do you find people treat it with a little bit of cynicism when you try and explain it to people?
Um, no, because I love it. And
Mm,
I can say, look what we've done. We've built this business to, we hit 1 million revenue last year. We've now got 100K months coming in. So it's proven. It's
yeah,
proven. It's absolutely fine. I think the business model that we do, which we'll explain a bit more in a bit, is the rent to rent model. And there are so many ways of doing it and so many people who have done it different ways, that there have been some really bad ones.
yeah,
And because it's low cost barrier to entry, people have tried it and had a go at it and failed. But any business is like that. There are so many businesses that people start and fail. There are dodgy people in any kind of sector. So yeah, people can be cynical and they can go and do
yeah,
something else and leave the amazing business model for us.
yeah. Even in the even in the ambulance service, there are people doing things not well.
Yeah, yeah. So
You're-
let's break it down then. So should we do a case study of the first one we took on? So basically we want to take on properties from landlords. We generally target old student houses, and the landlords we target are ones that have self-managed for 20, 30 years, and they're a bit bored of it, they're a bit over it. They don't want any more phone calls from students or tenants saying, "My door handle doesn't work," or "I think there's a leak," or "I've locked myself out at 10 o'clock at night." They just want rent every month. Like, that's what any landlord wants, right? They just want rent paid every month. So the first thing I did was a massive letter campaign, speak to agents, write letters to landlords to say, "We're looking to take on your property." And some people that I mentor and coach send 20 or 30 letters and say to me, "Oh, I haven't had many responses. I think I'm going to stop." And I'm like, "No, come back to me when you've sent 500 letters and spoken to 50 agents," because that's how
Oh.
I got my first 3 deals. So I sent all these letters out, got a phone call from landlord. "What is it that you do? Come and see my property." We viewed the house, and it was basically a 5-bed student house in Southampton, 2 bathrooms, kitchen, communal, living room, dining room, and it needed a bit of love, didn't it?
It really did. Yeah. It was pretty typical of the student houses that come up on the market because, like a lot of cities with universities in it, Southampton's really transitioned in the last like 5, 10 years from these old crusty family homes that are HMOs into purpose-built student accommodation. So
Yeah.
these big shy blocks of flats that students can come and stay in. So the stock is on the market in
Mm.
cities where that's happened. And what I thought you made a good point there about why this is so good from a landlord's point of view is like the whole business model has two sides to it. It's also really good from a tenant's point of view as well, because if you think about overall housing availability, um, having people that are doing HMOs properly and running
Mm.
them well and refurbishing them nicely, we're actually bringing properties, more affordable properties onto the market that are safe and clean. So that
Yeah,
house that
get them
was
up
a
to
student dwelling
standard.
that no one wants to live in unless you're
No.
a student is suddenly back on the market with 5 units available in a city that's already crying out for demand.
Yeah, exactly. I think when people think about student houses or HMOs, they think, "Oh, it's gonna be disgusting, grotty,
Yeah.
yucky old student house,
Right.
not enough parking, not enough bins." And so that's what our mission is, to transform them into professional house shares. And it's worked really, really well because we've seen a huge demand for these rooms. There's a housing crisis, there's not enough rooms for people. Young professionals don't want to get a flat anymore. They want to just get a really nice room in a shared house. So there's so many reasons why it's a really good business model.
Yeah,
So
100%.
with that first one, we were very excited. I was very excited. I just wanted to get this deal. And I said to the landlord, "Right, I'll take it on for 5 years. I'll pay you rent." And it was quite a low rent because it was a disgusting old student house. "I'll pay all the bills. I'll pay a cleaner, a gardener, and I'll do it up." And he was like, "Yeah, great." So spent 5 grand doing this house up. And do you remember I got the
Sorry,
cheapest
did you say that
painter?
you told them you were paying for a gardener?
Yeah.
That was me.
It wa yeah, it was you. But now we've got a gardener who does
Now
it.
we've got
We've
an amazing
outsourced it.
gardener, yeah.
Yeah, you used to mow that lawn every month in the summer, didn't you?
Yep, yep, I had my little electric lawnmower. I used to go around to, like, 3 or 4 houses
Yeah.
going, "Great, this is I'm loving my day off." But that's the early days of
What
any business, isn't it?
invaluable. But yeah, do you remember the painter that I hired, the cheapest one?
It was hilarious because 'cause you'd said, "It'll be really good." You'd kind of come home and you'd flushed with success because you'd finally had a yes after all the no's of all your letters and going and talking to agents and stuff. So you were like, "Right, this is it. We're gonna do one."
Mhm.
Finally, you come home and said, "How much does it cost to decorate a house?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know really." So, you were trying to turn it around quite quickly, weren't you? Because you'd negotiated like a month's free rent or something?
Yes.
So you'd found a painter. I don't know how you'd found him, but this guy, he was a proper geezer, the kind of guy that turns up in a van that's got bits hanging off
Mm.
with 3 weird mates. And he was just kind of stood in the hallway, looked around and went, 1,500 quid? Like, do you not want to see how many rooms there are or anything? And, yeah, just these guys. I mean, they did do it in the time that they were given, but I'd
Yeah.
gone in one day to start putting furniture together. And, out of the 3 guys that were in the house, I was like, "Where's that one guy's missing? Where is he?" And I went upstairs and he was lying down with his paintbrush in his hand, just on the floor snoring. I was like, is he okay? And he went, oh yeah, he's just had some teeth removed. He's on some really strong painkillers. And his lunchtime cider hasn't agreed with him. So he's having a bit of a nap. So yeah, cheap,
Shocking.
cheap.
But you learn about
Yeah,
we learn so much. You just
yeah,
don't know what you don't know. I did get quotes from 3 different painters, and then I
mhm,
just went with the cheapest one.
yeah,
'Cause that was the situation at the time.
yeah.
But so we got the whole house painted and decorated, so it went from magnolia and brown to just clean white. Mm, I don't think we were doing feature walls or anything at that
No,
time.
it was real basic. Yeah,
Yeah, we got loads of furniture, built it all ourselves, like literally 5 bedrooms of the drawers, the wardrobes, the desk, the bed, everything. And I started marketing it really, really soon. So we got a month rent free. And
mhm.
that meant I had to get the rooms filled and get it cash flowing before I paid rent to the landlord. And then once we had it cash flowing, I was aiming to profit about 600 quid a month from this property. So yeah, get a few of them and you're laughing, aren't you?
So how did you know? Because I didn't understand this from when we were doing it. I just knew we were tarting a house up. But how did you know that it was going to be profitable overall? How do you what are your criteria when it comes to looking at a deal?
Good question. So you do loads of market research first, and you figure out what is the average market rent for these rooms. And at the time, about 4 years ago, it was about 520 quid for a room with all bills included in Southampton. And so you just put it into a spreadsheet, just see if the numbers work against the rent that you're willing to pay the landlord, negotiate a bit on that. And then if you're getting at least 150 pounds per room profit per month, then it's a good deal.
Amazing.
Yeah, so everyone
So
I
you
work with, we all use the same deal analyzer, which basically shows your income from the rooms based on the average market rent and the outgoings based on rent to the landlord, all your electricity, gas bills, maintenance, clean. And you've just got this little number at the bottom, and that tells me yes or no.
Amazing. So you
Right.
kind of you get a good idea right beforehand. You're not just going into it going,
Oh, no, you
"Well,
have to plan it.
I'm
You
sure
have
it'll work. I'm
to plan
sure
it.
it'll be okay."
Also, things like time of year are important. You know, we put this house, we got it in April, May, I think, or maybe a bit later. So we're coming into the summer, lots of people are moving. If we'd done it in the winter, I know that demand is a lot lower in the winter. So we would have had reduced rent for a bit longer, I think. But the puppy's just on my lap now, just going, ah.
Agreeing. Oh, yes. It's
Yeah, I
very
agree.
very good deal. Yes.
But our first tenant was this lovely man. Do you remember him who invited us for a barbecue?
Yeah.
Let's call him John, not his real name. But he was this really lovely guy who was like recently divorced. He took the biggest room in the house and we filled the rooms really quickly. And he
Mhm.
said, I'm going to do a barbecue this weekend and I'd love for you and Simon and the family to come along. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. I don't think we're going to make it. You know, I did want to have a professional boundary and not go and hang out with all the tenants. But thank you so much. And he said, you need to pop round. I'm gonna put a chicken in the smoker for you. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And he
It was brilliant.
insisted, so I went popped round, and he had this whole smoker thing going on in the garden with several chickens in it, and he gave me one, and it was like slow cooked barbecue chicken, and he said, "Oh, I've done a tray bake for you as well."
Mm.
He was lovely, wasn't he? He stayed with us
Yeah.
for years.
And he got wind of what I did for a living, my day job, which is sitting in a control room for hours and hours. And I said that it's some every other Friday, it's your turn to bring in some cakes or something for the team.
Yeah.
And when he found this out, he immediately was like, "Let me know when your turn is. I'm going to sort you out." And I was like, "Okay."
Oh,
And he provided this enormous tray baked cake that I took in, and it
yeah.
went down really well. So he became my secret cake supplier as well.
What a lovely man.
He's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had our mix of tenants, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is, I mean, maybe you want to touch on it a bit more detail later, but you can, when you're marketing rooms, you kind of get a vibe for people, don't you, when you do
Yeah.
viewings? So yeah, I think we've been really lucky overall, like considering the number of tenants we've had, the number of years we've been operating, the amount of problems we've had have actually been really small. And I think that's really just down to the houses being of a decent standard.
Yeah.
being in the right place in the market, but then also just kind of doing our that we call it the vibe check, don't
Yeah.
we? Doing the due diligence on somebody when they're coming to view the house and finding out if they're going to get on well with the other people in the house.
I think it's really tough because they're gonna have to live with 5 or 6 other people. They're gonna have to share a kitchen, they're
Mhm.
gonna have to share a washing machine, they might be sharing a bathroom here and there. So you don't want difficult people.
Yeah. You got
And
to look
you're
out
right.
for those
Y
questions like, "Is it all right if I bring my flock of geese?" It's like, "No, you can't bring your flock of geese. This is not appropriate."
Yeah, we did have a secret cat, didn't we, in one of the houses?
Yes, we had a
That
seat.
was so weird, wasn't it? There was a ground floor tenant who said, um, there's cat poo outside my window," or it had been bagged up or something
Yeah.
and
When's
thrown
somebody
out of
gonna
the
clear up
window.
the, bagged up poo that's outside my window? We were like, "Why is there bagged up poo
Mm.
outside your window?"
And
Uh,
upon investigation, it was coming from upstairs where someone had a cat, which wasn't allowed at the time, because of allergies and stuff. We just can't have cats in the houses.
mm.
And yeah, they just had a cat, bagged up the poo and just thrown it out the window.
Yeah.
So we had to deal with that, and they said, "Oh, yeah, it's not my cat, it's just visiting, it's gone now."
Did I tell you I saw it once?
Did you?
Yeah, 'cause it had fallen on that time. We do, inspections every 6 months, and we go around to all the houses, message all the tenants first and let them know we're just gonna come and check for maintenance and wear and
Mm.
tear, and we do a big report to the owner so that they can see what's going on with their house while it's in our care. And when I'd messaged this house about the inspection, I had this really, like, flustered reply from the tenant in the cat poo room saying, "I'll be at home that day, but could you let me know exactly when you're gonna arrive?" Da, da, da. I was like, "Okay, fine." But, we were inspecting at that point, like, 8 houses during a day. I can't tell exactly when I'm gonna be there. So I'd given them, like, a 2-hour window, but I ended up getting there late because it took a lot longer than I thought. And when I arrived, there was just the tenant was just sat in their car out the front with a cat on their lap in the car. I was just like, "Hi there." And this is after we'd already messaged being like, "Someone got a pet." I was like, "Is that your cat?" She was like, "No." I was like, "Okay, having a sit with a random cat? Fine."
That's hilarious, I didn't know that. But yeah, I think to get good tenants, it's about making the rooms as nice as possible. If you give someone a nice house, they'll look after it. If you give them a grotty house, it will just stay grotty. We
Mhm,
put cleaners in every 2 weeks to maintain it. And yeah, it's about when you do a viewing with someone, doing that vibe check, thinking, would I live with them? You know, are they nice? We find out everything about them, but it is the vibe check, and then we do all the reference checks as well. And we've only evicted in the last 4 years, I think, 2 people,
mhm.
and they are tenants we've inherited from
Yes.
properties we've taken on, who have just been a bit antisocial, let's say.
Mhm. Yeah.
But, I think, in that first year, we got 9 properties on board, and that allowed us to get you into the business full time, so instead of paying us both. And now we're in the end of year 4, going into year 5, got 40 of these properties, and we've just systemized it, haven't we?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
I used to do a lot of marketing, my letters, my phone calls to the agent, my networking, and that would bring in the properties. It's like a funnel. Just do as much as you can at the top, then you'll get the phone calls, then you'll do the deals. But for the last 2 years, I haven't done any marketing. Have you
Mhm.
noticed that?
Yeah, yeah,
People have
definitely.
just come to us who either have houses with us and say, "Do you want some more?" Or who have just heard about us and think, "Yeah, they're really good operators." So I think when you get into the HMO market in your town, people start to notice if you're doing it really well, because most agents will have thousands of buy-to-let properties where they stick a family in and check it every year, and maybe a handful of HMOs. And HMOs need specialist management, don't they?
Yeah.
Like, we need to be responsive, we need to keep it nice, we need to be there every month checking the fire compliance and meter readings and stuff. And a typical agent, that's not their bread and butter. So we've had loads of landlords come to us saying they're just not good enough. We need an HMO specialist. And all we have to do is add them to our system and make sure we're proactive. And
Mm.
and we've done really well with it, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah, 100%, to the point where now with 40 properties under management, you've said that 2026 is gonna be a what would you call it? A fallow year with regards to, like, bringing on new properties,
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
stabilize, because it's in that kinda sweet spot now where it's bringing in really good money. we don't want to start hiring loads more staff because that will be kind of like the next step
Yeah.
and it becomes really cumbersome. So it's just a really nice thing that can now, you know, what would you say is your time commitment on a weekly basis?
It varies, but I'd say I work part-time on it.
Yeah.
Would you?
What about right at the beginning? Because I know we said that we started this. You started looking at this when you're on furlough, so that's a
Yeah.
fairly special situation to be in. You're being paid, but you don't actually have to do anything day to day. But would you say that you could have done it if you were working full time?
I think it's possible. I think it's a good business model because you can do it as a side hustle. So if every property is paying between £500 and £1,000 profit each month, you just get a couple of them and they can pay all your bills for the month.
Hmm.
Or get 4 or 5 of them, that would replace the typical salary. And 4 or 5 houses is not a big thing to manage. It's perfectly doable, I think, as a side hustle. Initially, there's the marketing activity, which you can do a bit every day. I did, half an hour a day to start with. Then it's going and viewing the properties, so you can do that whenever. Then it's taking on the properties and managing a refurb, which you can be as hands-on or as hands-off as you like. We tend to be hands-on because you're so handy and you know what to do. But sometimes we're too busy, we just subcontract it out.
Hmm.
Um, then it's finding the tenants, so marketing it online, doing the viewings with the tenants, and then moving them in and managing them. So there are steps, but I think you can work really flexibly. Like my whole dream was to work around the kids, and that's what I do. I can take them to school. We did the school run together today, which was really
Hmm.
nice. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, 100%. And when I was working in that kind of really rigid work pattern, it was 12 hours shift work. And just thinking about the lifestyle difference, you know, booking your leave 12 months in advance, having to
Mm,
work around Christmases and things like that. People that are in, I kind of forget, like already, this happened last year. We were down together in the afternoon. We'd pick the kids up 3 in the afternoon. It was like April or something. Really nice afternoon. We were down on the beach and I looked around and I was just like, Soph, where is everybody? And you went, they're at work.
yeah.
I forget
Mm,
how lucky we are, and it's all thanks to just having something which isn't linked to our time.
mm.
It does require our time, definitely, and there are times when you have to just drop everything and help sort out a boiler, or pick up the phone to a tenant who's having problems. But compare it with a 9 to 5 job, or especially shift work, and I would never change it. I could not go back now.
Yeah,
Us,
shift work was tough on our family, wasn't it? I found it
yeah.
really tough because you were doing 12-hour shifts, 7 till 7. So you were either working all day, got back late, and I saw you for a bit, or you were working all night and sleeping all day. So we didn't see you and we had to be
Mhm.
very quiet. And then you'd have 4 days off, was it?
It always varied. It was like 3 on, 3 off, 4 on, 4 off.
Yeah, so you'd have 3 or 4 days off,
Mm.
and then you'd be like, "Right, what can I do? I'll do some laundry, I'll do some cooking, I'll take the kids out." And then we wouldn't see you again for another week, and it was so tough on all of us. But last week, I went to a school careers, day at our local secondary school. I got invited, and it was like speed networking with year 10 and 11s. So they had 20 of us grown-ups sat on little chairs. We had 3 chairs opposite us, and the kids would get 5 minutes per group to come and sit with us. And they'd all say, right, what do you do? What's the best bit of your job? What's the worst bit? What qualifications do you need? And there were some really interesting people in the room. And I ended up talking a lot about just starting a business, just having that instead of a 9 to 5. And I said, there are these pros and cons. So if you get a 9 to 5 job, you've got a salary, you've got guaranteed income every single month. That's financial security. But you're working 9 to 5, it's not flexible. You have to ask for time off and you might not get it. Someone else is your boss. Whereas if you're your own boss, work flexibly, work wherever you want, that your income could be uncapped when you've got a business because you can just keep adding it, adding other streams of income, other business ideas like I have
Mm.
all the time. And it's amazing. And they said, what are the worst parts though? What are the challenges? And I think the biggest challenge is you don't have that guaranteed salary. You are responsible for getting that revenue in every single month, which can be very stressful for people. And I think having a business with recurring revenue is key. Doesn't matter what business you're in, make it recurring. Set up something like a membership or a group or something that will bring money in every month that you can then forecast. That's what's great about this business model is that we sign our properties for 5 years, we fill them with tenants, we've got income coming in for 5 years from each property. And then you can add and add and add and scale so that your risk is spread across all these different properties. Um, and then you systemize it. So we took on our first staff member a couple of years ago, didn't we? We finally booked a holiday to Egypt for like 4 days. And we found this guy and said, here's a key. It opens all our houses. We just need you to be that person to go and check stuff if we need to. He turned out to be brilliant. Took him on part-time. He's now full-time. And then we took on another full-time member last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
Which has allowed us to do more of the bits we love, delegate the bits we don't like, work more on the business than in the business, which I think is key.
Yeah, definitely. Because in the early days, like the first year or two, the biggest burden on your time specifically was doing the viewings, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we were operating in Southampton, but we were living about 20 minutes away. So to drive into Southampton to do a viewing that then cancels or doesn't show up was a bit like, oh gosh. Whereas finding staff members that were really, really local and could
Mm,
just stack loads of viewings up and take all that off your hands gave you the opportunity to concentrate on really scaling properly.
yeah.
And that freed you up to pull off the most amazing deal of a lifetime last year, which was to take on 10 properties in one go from a landlord who we he was a neighbor of like our third or fourth property that we'd taken on. And this guy was weeding the front garden. And I got chatting to him, and turned out he was from London, and he was coming down to Southampton to personally weed the front garden of his properties in Southampton. I was like, why are you doing all this yourself? And he went, no, it's with an agent. They just don't care. The agents just are not looking after this place, and these are all student houses, and the students don't look after it. And he went on, and I could just see like the stress on this guy's face. And then he asked about, what do we do? And I said, kind of explained what we did. And he went, oh, so you kind of like shoulder the financial burden and make sure that I'm going to get my rent and the tenants are going to be, and, I don't have to worry about anything like that. And I said, yeah, that's what we do. You don't have to worry about this stuff. He's like, okay. And he was a bit of a slow burn, but he gave us a property, didn't he, the
Yeah.
following year? So kind of like, we didn't know at the time, but it was a bit of a tester. And we ran that property for him for 12 months. And then he said, I love you guys. I think it's amazing. And I can see this working really well. Will you take on the other 10? And you kind of went, oh, can we? And that was when our second staff member came along, wasn't it? Because actually plugging 10 properties into our CRM, into all the systems we got, was really easy from
Hmm.
an IT and systems point of view. The only challenge was going to be, okay, just filling the rooms, because
45 rooms in a day. Yeah.
45 rooms on day one. So that was an awesome feat.
It was a good deal. It was a really big deal and we pulled it off. And
Yeah.
it grew our business by a third, didn't it?
Yeah. But it all came from, like you say, people getting wind of what you do,
Mm,
seeing what you do, seeing the difference. Because it's interesting now that there are some agents in Southampton that are now offering guaranteed rent as a model. But because I am a cynical person, I just think, yeah, they're offering the model, but I don't think from a systems point of view and from an attention point of view, they're just not
no.
set up for dealing with lots of HMOs.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening to this and thinking, this looks interesting, we've got loads of free resources on it. I've got a free guide. I'll put it in there. We teach people to do this in our rent to rent circle. So you can join our membership, which is a 12-month membership because I want to support you, because it takes a little while to set up the business. You're not going to win day one. We're going to need a couple of months, but it shows you exactly what to do, start to finish. You get my entire framework, 3 grand's worth of legal agreements, everything you need, live coaching from me twice a month. We meet in person as well every quarter. And it's fun, isn't it? Like
It's
we
really
get in the
fun.
room with everyone, we
Yeah,
do case studies, we're getting on the phone, we're doing deals together. It's brilliant fun. I think it's really important to get together in person.
definitely. And like the early days of you doing this, when it was just mainly you and a little bit of me, can be a bit of a lonely place, and you can feel like you might be making mistakes. So having someone else make all the mistakes and then show you how to avoid
Yeah.
making those mistakes, how about that?
Do this, don't do this. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've got 40 properties now, so we've got a decent sized business. So I feel happy that I'm now mentoring others to do so because I'm like, yeah, I do know this,
Yeah.
and us being a team in it as well is really helpful because they get your brain as well. So I'll put that on the show notes as well. But this is probably not for people. I don't want everyone to suddenly sign up. It's not for you if you live in a really rural area because we need a market. We need those HMOs. So Southampton's great, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool. If you live in near a big town, probably within an hour of you, it can work really well. If you don't, but you want to work in a big town, all you need is a trusted person. So if you live in the middle of Wales, but you want to do Liverpool, get a friend to help you, get a part-time person to do a few viewings and be your trusted person on the ground. I even had a call with someone who was like an overseas investor and they were like, can I do it? I was like, well, yeah, we can do market research, pick your town and then get a trusted person so you can do it. Um, but if you have any questions, just send us an email or find us on Instagram.
Hmm.
It's been good. It's been good. We've got our in-person day coming up at the end of Feb, haven't we? Which will be good.
Yep.
And we're actually hosting a free challenge the start of Feb on Facebook. I'll put the link as well for that because we're going to be literally opening everything, being very transparent about
Hmm.
everything we've done to get to these 100K months.
I'm really excited about the challenge. That's
It's
going
going
to
to
be a
be
really fun week.
panic. It's going to be
Yeah.
amazing.
A little session every day. So
Yeah.
they're all recorded. So if you can't make it in person that week, it'll still be there. But to go along and spend the week learning bits and bobs, and then hopefully having the start of your funnel open by the end of the week, your first
Yeah.
deal in the pipeline. How
People
about
started finding deals last time. It was amazing.
yeah?
Yeah.
When we did our
And
last in person day, you were like,
yeah.
everyone got their laptops out, everyone found a property in their area, and then you said, right, call the agent. And this person kind of looked at you and went, what, now? And they did, and they went out
We
of the
get
room and
stuff
came
done.
back in 10 minutes later and went, I've got a viewing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it was just that quick boost to just go, right, go do it now.
You've got to do it. You've got to take
Yeah.
action. If you don't take action, then nothing will happen.
Mhm.
And you've got to be prepared for no's. But I think the great thing is if you become the HMO expert in your area, you will know more than 97% of people. It's a really nice niche to get into. There are certain things you need to learn, certificates, compliance, amenity standards, things like that. But once you've got that knowledge, you can easily be the HMO person in your area. And it's such a good market. There's high demand. There's always going to be demand for rooms. So it's a great business to get into.
100%.
There you go. That's what we
There you
do.
go.
So, what has your biggest challenge been in the last 4 years in this business?
My biggest challenge in the last 4 years in this business has definitely been letting go,
Mhm.
because it was so hands-on in the beginning, and I take it really personally, the standards that we were setting, and just trusting that we can kind of step back and not work in the business the whole time. I found that really hard, especially because I wasn't a tradesperson to begin with, but I
Mhm.
swiftly became basically a Swiss Army knife handyman.
Yeah.
And knowing the houses inside out and being really detailed and really close to it all the time,
Mhm.
I think made it hard for me to trust other people to do the stuff that I was doing. But building the relationships and finding people that we could trust to do it well, um, really helped with that. What about
Yeah.
you?
I thought you were going to say the 7 bed that was a really, really, really disgusting old house, and you basically refurbed the whole thing yourself. Ripped
I
out the
lived
kitchen
there.
and 2 bathrooms. You basically lived there,
Yeah.
and, it was absolutely incredible. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you for doing that. Yeah, I think, the delegating and the outsourcing initially is really hard because no one's ever gonna do it like you, but then you can never scale your business. So, the fact that we've now got a team and we've got loads of subcontractors that we know and trust, I think that's really helped us scale. It's absolutely key. My biggest challenge, I think year 1 is cash flow, which is the same in a lot of businesses, especially in this business, because pretty much every time we take on a property, something is spent on it, whether it's time, money, you start with a void, you're going to have a cost every time you take on a property. Um, So I've got much better at forecasting that in, factoring that in, because you know it's going to pay off and give you an amazing return on investment. But in that first year, when I was like, I want to take on, we took on 9 properties, each one of them dipped our cash flow and we had to work really hard to get it back up.
Oh.
But someone once said to me, if cash flow is an issue, if you're worried, go and make more money, go and make more sales. And that's just stuck with me. Like, don't just sit there, go and make some sales, get some money in. And it's saved the business quite a few times by just going out, doing more marketing, doing more sales and building it.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Cool. We are running out of time, but
Okay, then.
thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me
I
on.
think we need to talk more about our Indonesian adventures, our Cambodia adventures, our Fiji adventures, all the
Mhm.
diving. So I'll get you on again and we can talk about that next time.
Great. That'll be nice to think about warmer climates.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Have a good day, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Cheerio. Bye.